Hello everyone. I wanted to record this before it gets way too dark out here, but I wanted to do a series of videos talking about the so-called contradictions in the expanded universe and essentially how they were resolved. I want to cover one of the biggest ones. This contradiction is one of the bigger, more well-known contradictions, in the expanded universe. And if EU haters have any little knowledge of the expanded universe, they'll usually list this one. And that contradiction is the Clone Wars, as it was stated to have been in the Thrawn Trilogy. So the Thrawn Trilogy came out at a time where George Lucas really had no plans to do a prequel trilogy. He was on the fence whether or not he wanted to do one. So then, when the Thrawn Trilogy was being written, since he really had no idea like what the Clone Wars was exactly in his mind, when Timothy Zahn wrote it, it differed a little bit than what we saw in the prequels. Even though Timothy Zahn kept details about the Clone Wars very vague in the novel made it seem like the Clone Wars was a war against clones trying to take over the galaxy, or evil clone masters turning against the galaxy, or whatever. And there's also a few other things. There's mention of a great clone rebellion. There was also Captain Pelion, for those of you who don't know, is Thrawn's right-hand man. He said he remembered fighting clones in the Clone Wars. Well, how could he do that if, the clones were on the Republic's side? The novel also got the date of the Clone Wars off by like about 2 decades, I believe. Alright. And I want to resolve that issue. So, essentially, let's talk about what the Clone Wars was about. If you really think about it, mad clones trying to take over the galaxy. If you were a separatist, if you were a citizen of the CIS, what would your point of view of the Clone Wars be? The clones are evil, and they're trying to take you over. So essentially, the retcon was the idea that the Clone Wars was a war against mad clones trying to take over the galaxy was from the separatist point of view. Poof, contradiction gone. This was supposed to be a reference to the Clone Wars, the Great Clone Rebellion, but that never really happened. Well, what happened in this game? I don't know if you can see it in this light. Yeah, I'm holding up Star Wars Battlefront 2. What happened in Star Wars Battlefront 2? Tell me, people. In Star Wars Battlefront 2, there was a mission where the Kaminoans turn against the Empire. They create basically their own clone army loyal to Kamino and not the Empire. And then they attempt to rebel. Well, the Great Clone Rebellion and the Clone Masters turning against the galaxy was the campaign mission in Star Wars Battlefront 2. It was not the Clone Wars. So, contradiction gone. What else? Oh yeah. In the Thrawn Trilogy, like I said before, they retconned that Captain Pelion did fight in the Clone Wars against clones. However, if you read the Star Wars Clone Wars multimedia project, specifically the Star Wars Republic comics, there's an arc called Siege of Seleucami. Really great arc. One of my favorite, probably my favorite part of Star Wars Republic. And basically in that, the Separatists are growing clones of these warriors, or they're growing clones of the last remaining member of this warrior group called the Morgukai to basically fight the Jedi and the Republic. Well, Pelion was on Seleucami fighting those clones. That's why he stated in the Thrawn Trilogy he remembered fighting clones during the Clone Wars. He wasn't fighting clone troopers, he was fighting Morgukai clones. What else? Oh yeah, the date of the Clone Wars. So in the Thrawn Trilogy, I believe it was Dark Force Rising. The Nogri matriarch, I don't remember her name, she stated, "Oh, the Clone Wars happened 50 years ago." And that doesn't quite work with what the prequels established. So the retcon was, the date was established in Nogri years, and by the Nogri calendar, not by the standard galactic calendar the Empire and the rest of the galaxy used. So the Clone Wars, in human years, as the prequel established, happened almost 30 or so odd years before the Thrawn Trilogy. But again, it's in Nogri years. That's why the Nogri said, "Oh, it happened half a century ago." So that's how they dealt with that issue. So all those contradictions were fixed. So yeah, that's how Lucasfilm resolved all those retcons between the prequels and the Thrawn Trilogy when it came to the Clone Wars. For those of you who are watching, if you have a Star Wars The Clone Wars, not Star Wars The Clone Wars, I was thinking about this show. If you do have a Star Wars The Clone Wars retcon or an EU contradiction you want me to cover in the future, please let me know, and have a good night, people, or good morning, wherever you are. I'll see you guys around the galaxy.